Questo per te è stato un po' un ritorno alle origini, perché la tua famiglia ad Asti già faceva il vino, giusto?
Sì, mio cugino ancora ce l'ha un po', è piccolo però ce l'ha ancora. E mi ricordo sempre con mio zio, anche c'era una parte della mia famiglia che faceva la grappa, mi ricordo l'odore.
When you meet certain people, there's this automatic connection, and one way or the other, I knew that whatever we did, I mean, here we are 27 years later, 26, 27 years later. I knew very early on when I met him and when we connected that I was going to be friends with him for the rest of my life, most likely.
All right, so this is the gym. It's where I work on my, Greek god body.
Dicevi che fai 45 minuti al giorno di allenamento.
Bastano?
Bastano sì, è intensità che conta, non il volume. Non è molto pesante, non ce la fai.
Quando penso a Man of Steel, penso almeno a una delle identità di Andrea. Poi è secondo me anche l'aspetto poi più morbido, ma secondo me l'acciaio fa parte della sua disciplina, della sua tempra, della sua pragmaticità, ed è un'ottima armatura poi per tutto quel velluto e quella morbidezza e quella creatività che poi invece racchiude all'interno. Ecco.
La prossima volta cominciamo il...
Beh, che abbiamo fatto un po' tardi, se no...
è divertente.
I probably know Andrea better than most anyone else knows Andrea. We've been like brothers to each other actually for a long, long time. There's multiple sides to him. I think of him as being extremely steady. And I think physically also he shows that as well. And he is so driven that he decided that he wanted to get in shape, but not just get in shape. He learned everything there was to learn about, weightlifting, about bodybuilding. And he did it like he does everything else, to perfection. That's how he functions in whatever part of his life, he puts his focus on. You would say a mind of steel, but that he has this kind of belief in what he does. And that he is able to unequivocally believe in something. Maybe to the outside world, he might feel like the man of steel. But to me, as my friend, as the person that I know, he's my brother, but he's also one of the kindest and softest people that I know. And it's a beautiful dichotomy, I think, beautiful opposites that exist in him. And I remember in 2003, Andrea asking me, hey, I'm thinking of starting something with someone else, with our old business partner. And I really think, I would like to start it, but I would really love for you to join, because if you join, I think we'll have everything covered. And I didn't quite, at the beginning I was intrigued. I didn't quite understand when he said we'll have everything covered. I was like, what do you mean, everything covered? Like, how many people, are you thinking we're going to start this with? And it was just the three of us. But what was great about it, and when we first started working together, myself, Andrea, and Didier, it connected perfectly. We knew why we complemented each other. There was three of us, but we covered every angle almost of the start of what a company should be. People first. Games will come and go. We will work on cool things, cool platforms, cool partners, publishers and all that. But the most important things are people. And if people is what you care about, you make great things afterwards. And I think that's what I felt the very first day that we started talking about the company and creating the company. I believed in us that we could basically do what we were planning on doing.
Quando lavori con le persone giuste, a parte che fare videogiochi è un lavoro durissimo, ma se lo fai per le ragioni giuste non ti senti mai come stai lavorando. Io non mi sento mai lavorato.
Years later, now 20 years after, we started the company, we talk sometimes about our first game. The first game was our first baby, right? It's the thing that we love the most, that we still care about the most. And Andrea and I always, talk about the fact that it was probably the best time we've ever had working on anything. It was magical. It was so much work. I mean, I can't even imagine how much we worked. We didn't sleep. We were just working all the time. But the adrenaline behind it, the passion behind starting the company, working on Daxter was unbelievable. And I remember even the moment that we truly felt like we had something special on our hands. It was E3 2005, and we were showing Daxter for the first time on the show floor at E3. And the game, we thought we were making a great game, but you never know until somebody really plays your game and tells you it was great. So at E3 2005, there was this group of people that started moving towards our booth. And I was wondering what all these people were, and they were all Japanese, and they moved closer to us. And in the middle of that group, as the people part, he's walking straight towards Daxter, and it's Miyamoto-san. And he walks up to the console, he puts his head down, and here I am standing a few feet away from him, and it was amazing to see his reaction, because you can see when he's smiling and he's playing this game that the father of like the platformers and all that is now playing our game, and suddenly we realize that he likes what we're doing. And that was one moment in Daxter, I will tell you, that actually changed our mindset about if we were doing the right thing, if the company was going to succeed, if we were making good games, if we knew what we were doing.
In tutti i nostri progetti, quello che cambia è il tipo di difficoltà, è chiaro. Per esempio in Daxter era un combattimento continuo, perché la difficoltà di sviluppare su una piattaforma la PSP è una cosa molto speciale, perché specialmente allora la PSP era una piattaforma geniale, ma con delle limitazioni enormi.
Everybody believed that we could make games that were more, like Daxter was already a stretch. And most of the games that were coming out at the time were not as complex as Daxter. It was more like a console game, but on PSP. But when we saw God of War, I was like, we can do this on PSP. And that was also the mindset that we picked after, and while we were working on Daxter, we decided to go back to Sony and tell them, look, I know you want us to work on Daxter 2, but I think it's better for the platform if we work on something like God of War. And the first reaction from Sony was, why would you do that? And I was like, well, we're going to increase the user base. We're making a game for everyone. We're going to make a mature game like God of War. It's going to be amazing. The platform's going to have this breadth of games that are out there, not just like, E for everyone games. And I think Sony's reaction first was, there might be a good idea. And what they proposed we should make was a 2D side-scroller. The very first idea out of it, they go, oh yeah, you should make God of War, but I don't think you'll be able to make a game like the one we make on PlayStation. It's better if you make a side-scroller. And we had to convince them to tell them like, whoa, wait a minute. No, we want to work on it because we want to make a God of War exactly like it is on PlayStation console, on the home console. We want to make a game like that on PSP, and they didn't believe us. I remember at the time, Andrea actually decided to work on something that we thought impossible to do. He was working on a fog system, like a particle system, and a way to build a fog system, which is what Andrea does. Andrea picks complicated systems, and he puts his head down and he works on complicated systems, things that other people cannot do. And we'll talk, and Andrea will go and build something that you decide, this is something that nobody has done before. Let's do that. Back in 2010, if you remember at the time, Sony, the PlayStation Vita was the next iteration of the portable, and Sony really wanted us to be the number one team working on Vita. We had been that for the PSP. To this day, we have sold more units as a company on PSP than any other company in the world. We were the best sellers for pretty much every game that we sold. So they told us, why don't you work on Vita? And they wanted to see if they could bring God of War, first of all, to Vita. And we said, okay, we'll put a couple of people to do that, but frankly, that is not what we want to do. There is another project, but I'm not sure you guys are going to be interested. But we already have ideas about what we want to do next. And Sony was intrigued. They didn't know what it was. I didn't tell them what the IP was. I didn't tell them what the game was. I just said, we have something new. We're going to be working on console and we're going to be doing something big. And if you're interested, we can talk. But if not, we're not going to talk about Vita. We're maybe going to go with Microsoft. And then Sony was like, okay, tell us, well, what is it?
Thank you. We are proud to have Ready at Dawn developing an exclusive title for PS4. As you know, they developed 3 of the highest quality PSP titles with us and have grown into one of the world's most respected studios.
Mi ricordo una tua risposta che mi hai dato sul palco della Games Week quando ho fatto una domanda: se potessi realizzare qualunque gioco con qualsiasi budget, tu mi hai subito risposto The Order 1886-2, perché ovviamente avevi l'idea di una trilogia. Però c'è magari una cosa che con il senno di poi faresti in modo diverso?
Un sacco di cose farei in modo diverso. Le lezioni si imparano semplicemente come combinazioni di esperienze positive e di errori. Abbiamo sicuramente fatto tanti quanti errori, quante cose buone. Penso che avessimo fatto anche delle cose buone. E una delle ragioni per cui ho risposto nel modo in cui ho fatto è che io so quello che sarebbe potuto essere, più di qualunque altra persona a parte Ru. È doloroso il sapere che quella visione non verrà realizzata.
When we started the company Ready at Dawn, I became the creative director of the Ready at Dawn. I was the art director originally, and I also became the creative director. And as creative director, I started working on all the stories, IPs, creating worlds, creating people, characters, and writing stories and writing scripts. And I had been writing stories about this, what was The Order at the time was called Requiem.
My feeling was that for this generation, a big distinguishing factor was going to be just how much more alive a game level should feel. Whether it's smoke, things blowing in the wind, everything that is moving in the game interacts volumetrically and correctly with the air in the environment. When our characters are standing there, the wind is blowing and you get the coat flapping in a physically correct manner. Whether you even understand why it looks better than you've seen before, it just registers, the player doesn't know why, but it looks better, it looks more realistic.
We knew we wanted to make the game more realistic. More realistic meant that physics had to work a different way. And that was a task that clearly was suited for Andrea. He always tackled hard problems. And when we thought, okay, we need to do something about physics because physics in games is a little bit clunky. It looks very rigid. It doesn't, show up really too well in most games that you play. He decided to start on a system that would be the first soft bodies physics system in the game industry. And at the very beginning, the idea sounds great. Executing on it is another story.
Fin dall'inizio il nostro approccio era come era stato fino dall'inizio quando abbiamo iniziato Radio Dawn, che era cercare di trovare un angolo personale e diverso e cercare di non limitarsi. Puoi dire quello che vuoi di tutti i nostri giochi, ma siamo andati da tutte le parti e ogni volta abbiamo cercato di spremere qualche cosa di unico, che sia sicuramente dalle varie piattaforme su cui siamo stati, ma anche dall'aspetto dell'esperienza, del design e di tutto il resto.
Another year goes by, 2 years into it, it's nearly there, but not quite there. And it was, I think, Christmas where things clicked in his head and the system actually came online. And the best way to describe how good the system is to look at the order and look at how everything reacts in the world. From the cloth to the way bodies react, from the rag dolls, from everything. It was, I think, something that games had never done before. And that was a system that Andrea single-handedly actually took from inception to the end. And it's a huge part of how the world feels. The reason why the order feels so real is because of so many different things. And one of those things is the physics system.
this game is going to be the biggest thing out of 2015.
You've never seen a game that looks this pretty. The world that has been created is really unique.
I've never seen someone live in the year 1800 and have a weapon from like the year 3000.
That trailer, if that trailer had not clearly said, this is being done in engine, I don't know that I would have believed it.
Well, thank you. Actually, I think that's the biggest compliment we can get.
So 2010 to 2011, we started working in 2011 on this game, and within a year, we put out the first demo of the game. This was running on PC. There was no PS4 yet. That day, this was GDC 2012. During that conference, there's another smaller conference called GTC that Sony runs. And this is a conference that is only for Sony first-party teams. And we were kind of new to it because all Naughty Dog was there, Insomniac, Guerrilla Games, all of those teams are there. And we showed the first demo of The Order. And I think that we probably changed a lot of things in their mind. They were not only amazed at what we were able to do in that 1 year, but they asked us if we could share some of our technology, our know-how, how did we do what we were doing.
Abbiamo innovato in molti modi, sia dal livello di design artistico che nel modo in cui abbiamo usato la tecnologia, cose che adesso fanno praticamente tutti quanti, adesso sono cose comuni, l'uso dei materiali come lo facevamo noi, vari aspetti di dynamic lighting come facevamo noi, cose di animazione, il fatto che non ci fosse mai un loading screen, tutte queste cose. Volevamo veramente cominciare con questa sensazione audiovisiva, volevamo raggiungere un traguardo che non era mai stato raggiunto prima dal punto di vista audiovisivo.
Everything in the game was real time. There was nothing pre-rendered. You know, that was actually the first big game that ever did that. And that was a big change because nobody believed it could be done.
Purtroppo quell'aspetto ha dominato lo sviluppo un pochino più a lungo di quello che avremmo voluto e ha lasciato poco tempo per rifinire altri aspetti. Con The Order noi eravamo un team fin dall'inizio considerevolmente più piccolo della maggior parte degli studi interni e di altri team che c'erano a quel livello di AAA di costo. Per cui fin dall'inizio abbiamo dovuto sviluppare nuove procedure, nuovi approcci a come creare content. La tua sperimentazione poi diventa costo diretto, confronto a cose che sono già lì pronte e diventa molto difficile giustificare quello quando ci deve essere una ragione profonda per cui tu osi avventurarti in nuove cose che richiedono tecnologie specifiche. La maggior parte delle volte c'è una pressione nel non farlo, è chiaro. Cercano di farti rimanere vicino alle cose che si sa che funzionino.
So we had to grow from the 60 people to what we would become in the end of The Order. We were about 120 people. And surprisingly, for people who don't know about games, they might not know that 120 people to make that kind of game is about 1/3 of the actual size that would be needed to make that game. Normally, those games are built by 250 to 350 people teams. Naughty Dog was already over 250 people. They were making one game with 250 plus people. And here we are with 120 people trying to make a game in less than 4 years.
In 5 hours, you can roast a pulled pork, you can fly from England to Egypt, or apparently you can play The Order 1886 in full, as a YouTuber has just proven to the world. The footage totals roughly 5 hours of playtime, including both gameplay and cutscenes, with the time devoted to cutscenes appearing to be roughly half of that playtime, and the cutscenes are reported to be unskippable.
Around January 2015, when I got a call from one of the executive producers at Sony about the leak, that a copy of the game had been leaked. And it was pretty devastating to understand that. The worst part about it is that we asked, what are we doing about it? You know, what now? What is the thing we gotta do? And really the answer we got at the time at least was, there's nothing we can do. It's already out there. And I think that Sony later actually changed the way they did things, because I know that other games were leaked, but much later, and then they started actually actively pursuing those things. But at the time, we felt helpless.
The Order è assegnato, dopo appunto questo hackeraggio che c'è stato, un momento di grandissima difficoltà chiaramente, perché si è chiusa la collaborazione dopo 12 anni con Sony e anche questo è stato un grandissimo momento alla Vala Spacca, perché chiaramente potevano ritrovarsi a dover chiudere in qualche maniera. È stato un momento della carriera che poteva segnare anche la fine di un certo tipo di carriera.
I was in the middle of a press tour. There were so many things going on. We reconnected in one city. It was one of those things that was difficult because we were trying to celebrate something, but at the same time, the news was bad. And it's hard to basically do your job in the middle of a press review and a press tour while you're dealing with a fire at home almost. So yeah, that was most of what I remember from January 2015 and how difficult the next month was with the team.
Do not buy this game.
If you're thinking about buying this game, don't buy this game.
Really, don't buy this game.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And is it worth your hard-earned $60? Well, shit.
The Order Prologue and reduced its price by half. A preview, a fucking $60 teaser.
I really feel like this is a game you do not have to have in your collection.
Wow, so pretentious.
We took your money 1886.
This game, son, Lord have mercy, man.
This game is
Fucking Art House, brilliant! Oh, fuck yeah! What? What kind of ninth grade bullshit tripe is this?
So you get done with this big, intense fight sequence, and then you're ready to take out not even the boss.
The reviews came out afterwards, of course. It made me question a lot what we did, how we did it, why we did it, because I almost felt that there was no true respect of the work that developers put into games. I have to tell you, the whole mood at the company went down because people were just wondering, like, why? Why does all of our work for nearly 3.5 years, why does it come to this? And it was hard to actually get people's morale back up at the time.
Io ho avuto un po' l'idea, probabilmente tutti i videogiocatori hanno avuto l'idea che proprio con The Order si fosse rotto qualcosa, magari nei rapporti con Sony, non so, in quello che sembrava un idillio che andava avanti da un pochino di tempo. Cos'è successo esattamente? Cioè c'è stata da parte loro un malcontento legato ai risultati o magari da parte vostra invece un malcontento, come dicevi tu, legato a quelli che erano i ritmi di produzione di un grande AAA, volevate fare qualcosa di diverso?
Il fatto che questo tipo di collaborazione, di relationship, è sempre un rapporto di lavoro. Anche se stai lavorando con persone che conosci molto bene, dicono sempre la famiglia, c'è sempre la famiglia. No, non è una famiglia, è un rapporto di lavoro che quando le cose vanno bene è mutually beneficial, è simbiotico. E sicuramente per noi lo è stato per tutto il nostro lavoro con Sony. Non si può tradurre in termini che tu useresti quando parli di amicizie o di cose del genere, perché non funziona così. Ed è sbagliato aspettarsi di essere trattati come se fosse un'amicizia. Non è che ci hanno abbandonati, non è che loro sono un altro business, noi eravamo un business separato. Hanno deciso di andare in un'altra direzione ed è finita lì. Non sarò mai a mio agio con l'idea che abbiamo lasciato i giocatori che hanno apprezzato questo capitolo senza una continuazione. Mi dispiace moltissimo perché sicuramente la nostra intenzione non sarebbe stata di interrompere in questo modo.
I will tell you that Andrea and I have talked a lot about that game over the years. And to this day, I'm proud of what we did. I know that it's not the reception that it got was not what we expected, but what we wanted to do and change about gaming happened with The Order.
The Order rimarrà sempre un progetto importantissimo per noi, per la nostra crescita, per me personalmente ovviamente. È stato sicuramente il progetto più non posso dire più difficili perché sono tutti difficili, questo lo dico sempre, ogni gioco è sempre una serie di compromessi, è direttamente proporzionale alla quantità di risorse e di costi che un progetto ha. Più ci sono costi, più ci sono compromessi, la funzione sarà sempre così. Per cui se sei uno sviluppatore che lavora in questo mondo, sei limitato a un gioco alla volta e un gioco che fallisce abbastanza per finirti. C'è qualche rimpianto, ma alla fine ormai sono 8 anni e passa dall'uscita del gioco. Ci siamo avventurati in un sacco di altre nuove cose e spero che continueremo a fare così.
So mine and Andrea's belief in the game industry was a little bit shaken, but the most heartwarming thing was to know that we had a group of people who were willing to stick together to do something even better next, to work again, to do something more.
Vengo fuori a pensare
qua è fantastico,
nel giardino.
Qui è incredibile.
Io qui è un altro posto dove vieni e ti rilassi completamente, è chiaro. Ti vieni, ti siedi e se non ci sono serpenti o altre cose puoi apprezzare la vista. Se vuoi essere vicino alla natura devi apprezzare com'è. Yeah. Tu fai, come si dice, introspezione. È chiaro, devi analizzare le cose che hai fatto e perché forse non sei riuscito proprio completamente a realizzare la tua visione. Il tentativo c'è sempre lì, è quel desiderio di non fossilizzarsi, di non continuare a fare le stesse cose, è sempre lì, è sempre più vivo che mai, anche oggi.
I got that belief back because of our team. Our team is the reason why we go to work every day. Every morning we're there to work with people we love, and that mindset actually, luckily for us, continued, and that's how we started working on VR after that.
E a questo punto Oculus allora, che era appena stata acquisita da Facebook, e Jason Rubin, la stessa persona che ha fondato Naughty Dog e ci ha dato Daxter, era in charge dell'aspetto di software per Oculus.
Around April of 2015, we decided to put our heads down and build a small demo. Tiny demo of what we could do in VR. So we made a small demo of a space station around the rings of Saturn, and all you did in that demo was you could just touch the surfaces and move around like an astronaut would move and just go out in space. All I heard after that, about a few days later, from Jason was, I don't know what you guys are doing, but here's what happened. I put the demo in somebody's hand who is usually not a person who can last or spend a lot of time in VR. That person basically ended up by floating around and grabbing things around in space for 30 minutes. Just being happy in space. And he said, this is special, this is different, this is something that we haven't even thought of when they thought of what they were doing with content on Oculus. And he asked me, do you want to make a game out of this?